Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to your weekly astrological weather. This is your place to get practical guidance for not only navigating the cosmic tides, but thriving. And I'm going to add surfing today with those cosmic tides. My name is Amanda Poole Walsh, and I am the founder of Astrology Hub, the host of this show, and I'm here with your favorite weather woman, Predictive Astrologer Ann Ortelee. And we have quite a week ahead. I don't know about you guys, but I woke up and I was like, okay, the tides have turned. I can't wait to hear what Ann has to say about it. I was feeling it, I don't know if you're feeling that too. Yeah. So we've decided to actually, for those of you listening on the podcast, you can't see it, but we have these backgrounds that we can play with now. And so today we carefully selected this wave background, and we want you all to imagine that you're riding in that wave as elegantly as possible, right? And Ann's going to tell us about the weather ahead. So let's start with the intensity scale. What are we looking at, Ann, on a scale of 1 to 10?
Yeah, kind of an intense one. We have an aspect that happens not that often this week. We have Mars, the planet of action and war and moving forward, coming to the node of fate and destiny. And we have a whole bunch of energy kind of building up. So we build up all week, and of course we have a full moon this weekend. So it's very much a potent week. I'm gonna go with a 20 at least, and maybe higher, depending on where you are. It's a week. Remember, last weekend, Sun and Venus both moved into Aries, crossed the equator, and they kick up the fire, right? Now, the Sun is exalted in Aries. He loves Aries. Venus, not so much. And she's pulling into a conjunction to the Sun, which is going to take place on the 26th, where she turns from a morning star, which she is now, which she's been since last June. She turns into an evening star. But she's not necessarily happy in fire. And as she moves in, she gets combust the Sun. So everybody's passions are riding really high. And they both answer to Mars in Gemini, which is this passion or that passion, this feeling or that feeling. And Mars in Gemini answers to Mercury in Pisces in the ocean. So Mercury in Pisces is if you've ever snorkeled or watched any movies, or you've had guppies, and they all go zoom, zoom, zoom. So it's that kind of week. Only it's kind of like, the analogy I used was like sailing, but you're in like a sailfish, like in a big boat, and those sailfishes just fly over the water. When I used to sail when I was younger, they go zoom, 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 zoom. And you're like, woo, going fast. And remember, all the planets are direct, right? So they're all moving forward and for another month. So it does feel like everything's much faster. But when Mars hits the node of fate, we're at a really big crossroads. And he does so on the same day that Venus and the Sun meet up at 6. And then right after that, there's a full moon, in Aries Libra. So there's just all this fiery, passionate kind of energy, and everybody's going to be feeling it. Now, depending on, are you happy with your passions or are you not? That's where we can have it magnified, because everybody's very emotional, running real sensitive, not always hearing what's being said, feeling it. And so it's being aware of it. So I went to a new moon ceremony, not a new moon. I have a little group when we get together on the equinox. I went to an equinox ceremony. We did a little politics. And we started talking, here in New York State, we're having Governor Cuomo having a problem. And he is a Sun-Saturn guy. Whoops, sorry, I forgot to take the phone off the hook. He's a Sun-Saturn guy in Sagittarius. So his job is to tell the truth. And when he doesn't tell the truth, he gets caught. And that's, so when I say do your Saturn, it's like do your Saturn in the proper way. So, in 19 years ago, he ran for governor and he quit the race at the last minute. And everybody got really mad at him because he quit, but he was going to lose. And then we ended up getting a Republican governor because the guy who won the Democratic primary didn't win the state. So everybody was mad at him. And then the day after the primary, his wife left him. Right? She divorced him. He was married to a Carrie Kennedy, and she ran off. And she ran off with like one of his friends. So it was very, triangle Pluto. So now we have him having not necessarily told I don't think he lied about the number of deaths, but I think he lied about the origin story of the deaths, that they were nursing home people that got we don't know yet. We haven't really found out, but he's also having a lot of problems with the women. And the way his chart works, Governor Cuomo, I'm a palmist too. When you look at Governor Cuomo's hands, he has a very big mound of Mars on his hands. So, I mean, a really big mound of Mars and a really virile thumb, because the thumb is will. And as a Scorpio, he's got this intensity and passion. So Mars in Gemini coming to the North Node, which is a repeat of where it was back when he had that problem. So we'll see if, there's a change in the governor here in New York. But we're all having that energy. We're all having the crescendo of the choices we made. And remember, the entire heavens are answering to Saturn. So he has Saturn in Sagittarius, which is he has to tell the truth no matter how hard it is. I'm going through my Saturn now. I'm applying for a mortgage. I don't have any debt. But I'm like, So wherever your Saturn is, very active this week. And you want to do your Saturn positively, because Saturn's involved in this mix, because Mars is trining Saturn. So it's making the appropriate choices for your Saturn. And then if you make the inappropriate, like you don't tell the truth, and in his case, he kind of bragged, like we had great numbers when he knew we didn't. So Saturn comes back and goes, really, Andrew? Huh. And so we have to kind of honor that with this energy, it's like that. So there can be a turn back where you get it turned back on you, or you're reflecting on your choices up till now and what they've been, because the planets are all going, okay, we're going forward, right? Mars in Gemini, what did you do? Mars answering to Mercury in Pisces. Now remember, Mercury goes into Aries this weekend on the 3rd, or goes into Aries on April 3rd. Not this weekend, but 2 weekends out. So when Mercury, right now, he's just churning up the water, telling the stories, the secrets are coming out. And so you want to watch, if you've been watching a secret for a while, this is when Mercury's going to dish it. And sometimes it might be a secret, somebody going behind your back. I've had a few clients really react like, oh my God, I was so betrayed. That was, the stories are coming out. So we want to kind of just know. And then the next part is, if you didn't, or if you did not, or if your Saturn is somehow saying to you, hey, you want to give Saturn propers, right? And you want to just go to Saturn and say, okay, I hear you, Saturn. Let me work with you productively. And our Saturn is our work, but it's also the thing we don't like at all. So as part of my mortgage application, they're saying to me, you didn't pay your 2020 taxes. And I'm like, 2020 isn't due till May 17th, but all right, I'll pay them, but you also say, don't drop money in your bank account when you're applying for a mortgage. So I'm a little Virgo. I have money taken out of my paycheck every month, and I put it in a tax pile, which when taxes are due, I transfer it in and I pay it. So I'm like, but you told me not to do that. So what do you want me to do? So I said, I'll pay those taxes. I got the money. You can see it here. But and you see me sending it out every month. So it's not like but that's Saturn, follow the rules. So I'm like, hey, before I go forward with this, let me just double check what the rules are in your own chart, because Saturn is doing accountability, what has to be handled for you to be able to go forward. And for some of us, it's easy. For some of us, it might be a little bit more, because I'm like, wait, my taxes aren't due. But, if I want a mortgage, all right, I'll pay my taxes early. You know what I mean? It's that it's a weird energy. So, when you see a wave like this that's behind us coming in, you have a couple choices. You can stand there and let it whack you. You can dive into it, or you can go underwater as it crashes over your head, or you can run for shore, really, you're not going to outrun the wave, or you can try and paddle over it when you were doing your surfing analogies a few months back. It's a wave. And it hits on the 26th.
All right.
That makes sense. A lot going on.
Can you do, so I love what you just said about Cuomo with the Saturn and Sagittarius. You gave like a one-liner. He needs to tell the truth. Would
Yes.
you be able to do that for each sign?
Sure.
Yeah, nice. Okay.
Everybody likes it when we go around the chart fast. So Saturn and Aries. Aries is supposed to be brave and bold and do things. And Saturn says, hey, not so fast. So they have to initiate stuff because that's their job. They always are the one that starts stuff. And a lot of times they get in trouble for it, or they feel like they get in trouble. Remember, where with Saturn is, you always want you to understand that area. So wherever we have Saturn, we overcompensate. We do it more than, or we're bad at it, or we're some kind of combination of both, where we learn how to do it over time. So I have Saturn in the 8th. So I have learned over time, debt is not a good thing for me. I make sure I have it saved before I pay for it, right? So you look at the sign, first you look at the sign, then you look at the house it's in, because it's going to vary by house. But Saturn in Aries is, I'm supposed to be brave and go first, but I don't really like to. But in this case, I have to step up and be brave. Saturn in Taurus, I like to acquire things. I don't really like to let go of stuff I've acquired. I like to hang on tight. But I have to be aware of the value of what I've acquired and why have I acquired it? What's its purpose for me? And then you're going to put the Saturn in your chart, and it's going to talk about where you do that, what part of your life, right? Saturn in Gemini is, I have a sibling story. I have a story about telling the truth. I have a story about duels. My authority figures are not always truthful to me. I have to be truthful too, but I can often twist the story a little bit, or there's two parts, part 1, part 2. And how am I telling you the truth, or am I telling you something? So Saturn in Gemini is what we choose to tell and how we tell it, but it also has a sibling story often associated with it, karma around a sibling. So Taurus is karma around money. Aries is karma around initiating or starting things. Saturn in Cancer, family, kids, parents, grandparents, home, house, real estate. A lot of times because Cancer rules property. So it wants it, but it also has work to do around it. And it's, remember, wherever Saturn is, we always have to lean in a little more. Saturn in Leo is supposed to create things, but it also goes that as I create them, what happens? Saturn in Leo is being childlike or being creative and being da-da, but it also has to go not too much, because then people go, oh, you're too, what did it have, Leo? And so they have to find the blend between da-da and relationship, because they have both, but they also want to create. And then a lot of people look at their creations and maybe are a little envious of them. And so then they have to figure out how brightly they shine. So they kind of go, okay, maybe I shouldn't be, oh, well, but, that kind of how bright, how not bright. Saturn in Virgo, work, pets, health. Often they work in healing. They have healing issues. Because they have healing issues, they work in healing. They also work in service to something. So you look at what house it's in, because that's what you work in service to. But they also feel sometimes like they always have to do the work. They're a little like Cinderella, and they always have to do it, and they don't always like having to do it, but they seem to be the ones that, quotes, get stuck. Whenever you use the word, I always get stuck on that. When you hear stuck, you're hearing Saturn. That's your Saturn talking. Saturn in Libra, relationships, baby. It's all about relationships. And they come in with a really big karma around relationships, how they work, what they work like, what their relationships are, how balanced they are, and they're the ones that rock back and forth, because they're like back and forth in the relationship, and sometimes they're in and sometimes they're out, and they have to try to find a balance in the relationship. And that can be any kind. A lot of times they work as lawyers. It's always about finding the balance. You don't win 100%. Everybody gets everybody's a little happy, everybody's a little unhappy. That's Libra. Everybody gets a little, but nobody gets it all. Scorpio, you want it all. And you're supposed to be committing. So Saturn in Scorpio has commitment issues. I've rented an apartment for 46 years. I've never owned anything. I'm, 66 and buying something for the first time. I've never even owned a car. I owned a car for 3 years, and I gave somebody $500 for it. It was like, here, I have no debt, right? But Saturn in Scorpio is debt, accounting, it's psychic. I work as an astrologer. It's what you work at too, but it's where your fears are. So I've been saying to people, I hate dating. I hate dating. I like relationships. Dating some people love to date. The Leos, they love to date. The Saturn and Scorpio, they hate to date. They like it, like just to get naked. Can we just get naked and do this? Do we have to go through all this formal stuff? I know I want to get naked with you. Don't you want to get naked with me? It's that Saturn and Scorpio. Saturn in Sag, not supposed to lie. He's supposed to tell the truth. Is supposed to be honorable. And Sagittarius is also communication and teaching. So they do a role as teaching. And when we looked at Governor Cuomo, people were tuning in around the world to see him teach us things about the virus, right? So he did that positive, but then he fibbed. And, Saturn goes, no. Sagittarius is also desiring to travel. They often have real travel lust. And so they have to travel, but there's usually some kind of adventures in traveling. A lot of times they work as priests, or they work in pastoral situations where they're leading congregants, or they're writers. Saturn and Sag, they're writers and teachers and journalists. Saturn in Capricorn, business, accomplishment, climbing the ladder, wanting to achieve those heights, like those goats in your backyard that you posted a couple of weeks ago. It's that desire to accumulate and to climb, but also they have to really work out their father issues, their authority issues, and where they get into power struggles with authorities. I was talking to a friend of mine earlier today, and we were talking about her son. And he said, well, he's got some authority issues. And she's like, yeah, I know. It's her kid. She knows. But that's what he has. And, he always gets into little struggles with authorities, which is what he's supposed to do. My brother has that. And so he's forever, getting mad at authorities and then trying to assert his own authority. It's where we want something, but we're also not so sure we're good at it. But then when we do it, we're actually really good at our Saturn. Saturn in Aquarius is a groups. So whenever someone says, groups, man, I have trouble with groups, Saturn in Aquarius or Saturn in the 11th house. It's also other people's children. A lot of times they work as teachers, or they work with other people's children, coaching or guiding or helping, or they work in some sort of community service. But they also have this whole thing about can't I just boss the group around and tell them what to do? Answer is no, you have to share and be collaborative. But Aquarians are like vision, baby, go for the vision. Saturn in Pisces is that sense of, dissolving and structure. It works a lot behind the scenes, works in service. Again, it's another service. Sometimes feels jailed because the 12th house is the house of slavery or captivity or bondage. It also is often works in hospitals or works in institutions behind the scenes in service to the old age homes, in service to the hospitals, in service to prisons. I've got one of my students works in the prison system. And so you have this energy of working in the prison system with her Saturn and Pisces. So it often is your work, but it also is the thing that you're good at. And in her case, she can't sit down. She's Saturn and Pisces. I don't want to lay around. I want to keep moving and go. Whereas opposed to Pisces is kind of, let's go with the flow and float. So, there's a whole bunch of other things, but you basically look at the keywords for anything, because keywords always help us. Look at the keywords for Aries and watch where, that's something I'm not real comfortable with. That makes me a little anxious. I don't really like that, but I like that, or you encourage people to do it. I had one of my students with Saturn and Aries, and I said, why don't you go shoot some guns? And she went, what? I said, well, you want to use your Saturn up, go shoot some guns. Aries is guns. And she now shoots, what are they, when they pull the thing and they shoot the thing out of the sky, the dump.
Yeah. I don't know what it's called.
Yeah, she does. She's really good. She's like a top shooter, in her, I guess they have competitions, of course, and it's Aries, and she goes shoot things out of the sky.
Okay. So this is where you're not naturally necessarily inclined to go. So right. It's like, and it feels hard and or intimidating or overwhelming to do it. But when you do it and when you apply yourself, you'll be really good at it.
Right.
And this week is a week where we really need to be paying attention to where our Saturn is and doing the thing, even if we have resistance to doing it.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. And the more, and also the thing with Saturn is the more you do it, the better you get at it.
Right.
So he's one of those guys. He rewards effort, and it isn't a place where you feel comfortable, but you practice it. And as you practice it, you get bolder, braver, stronger. It's your competency, it's your karma. A lot of times people do their Saturns, when people say to me, how do I said, well, we do our Saturn every day. And then because you do, it's your backbone, it's your bones. You're not a puddle of muscle on the floor without any structure. But it also is not a place where you necessarily feel comfortable. I feel really comfortable doing astrology. I get very anxious about taxes. It's not mutually exclusive, right? It's combined. So there's an energy of, it's the thing you often do for your work in some way or form. And I sold billing systems to lawyers, and I sold insurance, keeping track of insurance risks for strange things, political risk and kidnap and ransom, which is totally a Scorpio thing. And if you told anybody you had the policy, it was void because, it makes a case for kidnapping. It's like weird, but, I had a lot of therapists as clients. So Scorpio's therapists. So it's understanding the push and the pull of that energy. And it's a really interesting energy this week because Saturn, because he rules everything and everybody's shifting signs. When they shift into the new sign, they're still reporting into Saturn, but now they're reporting in from a different place. Kind of like when you walk into the hotel room after a road trip and you put your luggage down and you go, okay, now what do I want to do? Check my messages. No, I want to go get some food. Like you're entering into a new energy, but you're not quite out of the old. And we were in the energy of Pisces. So the sun has moved, Venus has moved, Mercury's going to move pretty soon. But because Mercury rules Mars, he still is ruling the sun and Venus because they're still reporting into Pisces. So the water. And then, of course, Pisces is reporting into Jupiter and Jupiter is reporting into Saturn. So it's an accountability time because we're moving forward. Universe says ready, set, go. And we're like, yeah, I think so. What else do I have to do? And so that's part of the journey. The other thing we have is Mercury this week. In my notes here, Mercury this week squares the nodes on the 25th. So Mars comes to join the North Node, but Mercury comes to square it. So Mercury square Mars tends to be, we're a little combative, we're a little argumentative, we're a little, because Mercury square Mars tends to have a mouth on it. And Mars is in Gemini. So it's, and remember, there's always two sides. When Mars is in Gemini, there's always two sides of the story. So you hear this side, and you really do need to go look at the other side of it. You need to look at both sides because Mars in Gemini says there's two sides. You know that, right? And that's why we have juries that say, let's get 10 people together, 12 people together. And if you can get 12 people to agree on anything, they're guilty, right? So that energy of how do we move forward? And of course, we're in this year of the Renaissance. I mean, we're not done with COVID, but we're planning our future. We're shifting our priorities. And this week is huge because the planets just went above the horizon and they said, new year, ready to roll. So it's a big week, but people might feel, some emotional stuff coming up. I had a couple texts that were crying earlier. I'm like, it's a very emotional week. Other people are like, I've got this. I'm diving in. Other people are going, man, those waves look really big. And other people are like, I'm ready. So we're at all different levels of readiness, but it is a week when a lot comes out. A lot of information comes out. So you want to watch that too.
Okay. You said.
And hard moons. The moon's in Cancer. Remember, the moon has been going through the clump, and now he's going away. So the Cancer moon today has a hard aspect. The Gemini moon has a hard aspect. The Leo moon has a hard aspect. Sorry. The Virgo moon has a good aspect. That's Friday. The Libra moon has a hard aspect. So it's a whole week of hard aspect moons. The moon is kind of, he says something and he gets kind of, he gets some kind of pushback. So that's the other thing. If somebody's pushing you back, just kind of go, okay, got it. Let me go over here. Right. Don't fight with them. It's not worth it.
Okay.
Unless it's really worth it for you. But it is a week where people are going to be a little more contentious.
Okay. Okay, Anne, you said that something about if we're happy with our passions or not. Like,
Yes.
you said depending on if we're happy with our passions. What do you mean by that? Like, do you mean if we're pursuing our passions? Do you mean if we're repressing our passions? Like, what do you mean by that statement?
Yeah, because the planets are all entering into passions, and because Venus is coming to the sun, she's going to initiate an 8-year cycle. So you're going to think about what you were doing 4 years ago because it was a full moon phase, and then 8 years ago, and then 4 years later, and 8 years. Every 8 years, Venus and the sun meet up, and they basically start like a new moon cycle. So they're meeting up at 6, and then right after it's a full moon. So they're meeting up and they're saying, yeah, you're going to follow that path. You're going to go for it. So a few years back, when it was a Leo situation like that, I had both of my assistants were here and we got talking. And I said, what'd you guys do? And so in the case of my assistant, Rachel, she said, I decided I was not going to date anybody who wasn't a marriageable guy. Like I was only going to date guys I wanted to marry. And then, and that was my plan. I'm not going to date just guys. And I'm like, okay. And she'd met her husband and they were getting married in a couple of months. And now they just had a baby. Right. So that was her thing. My assistant Rose, who's a writer, I was in a play in Baltimore and I thought I could do a better job of writing a play. So she sat down and wrote a play. And she got a guy, she was promoting it and stuff, and she got a guy who agreed to produce it off Broadway. So they had both worked on something for 4 years, and they were at a crossroads in deciding it. So last June, we were at the crossroads deciding what we were going. Well, that was the last time Venus was the Sun-Venus conjunction retrograde, and it initiated it culminated a cycle. And now we're coming into initiating a new 8-year cycle, which in 4 years, we'll see where we go. But it is right, the Sun and Venus are meeting in Aries at 6, and then the full moon is at 7. So the full moon takes us back to last October of 19, and then takes us to June of last year. And now we're at the full moon phase. And then when we get to Sagittarius, when we get to Capricorn, January, we'll be at the closing square. So we're back in October of 19 for the initiation for the Libra moon. So we watch these cycles kind of unfold, but we're also Venus Sun conjunct in Aries. We're making a commitment at 5 in our chart of Aries to start a new 8-year cycle. 4 years from now, we'll see how it is, which is what my assistants both talked about. They began it 4 years earlier, and there they were, one getting married, one's plays getting produced. So it's a very initiating energy this week, but it's also saying, are you really ready to initiate that? Or do you have some stuff you got to clean up? That's the part where it's very juicy and creative, but it's also Venus going from morning star where she's very fierce into an evening star where she's like, oh, chocolate bonbons. Let's do the love goddess rather than the earthy Taurus, passionate Venus that she's leaving. She'd been in passion mode, and now she's going, okay, I don't have to be quite so assertive about what I want. But she's got this, this new cycle, a new 8-year cycle that she begins. So it's big, yeah.
So, Anne, yeah, we've been working on ideas for a series of workshops that Anne's going to be offering with us. So at least one workshop a month where you can start to learn how to do these techniques. Is that on the list, this cycle thing, like tracking the cycles over time? Because that's really fascinating.
Yeah, Jamie had it on the list.
Okay, good. All right.
Jamie is behind us here with Courtney today training, but Jamie's behind the scenes and she runs the cameras and stuff. So Jamie and I are going to be doing it. Yes. Perfect. And it was on Jamie's list about what she wanted to know more about.
Yes,
So, yeah,
because I mean, being able to track these cycles seems really powerful for us to
it
work
is.
with that creative process and be very intentional about what we're planting in the ground. So what you're saying is right now we're starting a new 8-year creative cycle.
Sun and Venus getting married.
Sun and
They go.
getting married. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So they're coming together. They're saying, what's your passion? What do you value? How can you put your passion and what you value to work and start shining that brightly in the world? So you're making some sort of commitment. If you're apprehensive about that, if you're not sure, if you have things you need to clear around that, it may be challenging for you. You may be
Well, you've got that starting, but you might get pulled over here to, you didn't clean that up, but kind of, it's funny. I was listening to someone tell a story about cleaning up their room. I think it was Whoopi Goldberg. She was on Oprah and she was telling a story, like she'd said to her mother, yeah, I'll clean up my room. I'll clean up my room. And then she didn't. And she went out and then she forgot her keys. So when she was standing in the hall waiting for her mother to come back and, she knew her room wasn't cleaned. And so she went in and, and her mother's like, I thought you said you cleaned up the room. Because your mother asked her like 3 or 4 times. And she said, I did. I cleaned up my room. But she didn't. She figured she'd get home and clean it up before her mother caught her. And so she learned at that point to keep her word. So whatever the lesson is you're learning this week, it's a lesson you already know about. You're supposed to do this. Your job, but you're going to get caught. Or you're going to, you don't, this day and age with the stuff that's going on, you don't lie about stuff. I used to watch those things very religiously. I'm a Cuomo fan of the way he handled the pandemic in New York. I thought he did a great job. But every time the nursing homes came, he got all hinky. And I'm like, I don't know what he's doing, but there's something off there. I can feel it. And obviously other people did too, because they went a little dig. And, now he's got a nursing home scandal. It comes to light. That's better the way to say it. Yeah.
All right.
You have to clean this up before you can go to your next chapter. And really, you have a whole year. It's not like you have to do it this week. But your job is, okay, if you really want to do that, then you need to do this too, right? You want to go to, like Whoopi, you want to go to the play, you got to clean your room. Okay? Yeah, Mom, I got that. And then caught him.
Well, the awareness of the fact that these things are coming up for us to clear out of the way so we can move into new directions is helpful. Yeah. So even if it's painful or embarrassing or whatever it is, it's like, okay, well, that needed to come out. And
did you not know that this would come out?
Right.
Well, I didn't know. It's like, come on.
Right. Okay. So we have, and one more question before I recap. You say Mars is coming to the node of fate. What do you mean by that?
Mars is going to come up, the nodes of fate are in axis, right? So there's north node and south node. Rahu, the dragon's head, is the north node. Ketu, the dragon's tail, T, is the south node, H for head. And so the nodes of fate travel through our chart. They take 19 years to go through the circle. So 19 years ago, when he was running for governor the first time, he quit and his wife dumped him, ran off with her boyfriend, one of his friends, right? So there's this double story, right? He got the politicians all mad at him, which is happening again, and he's having trouble with women, which is happening again, right? So he has a dual energy there. As we go into Mars coming to the node, it says, we talked about this. There's a crossroads. When it hits the north node, it propels us forward. That's why we have the crashing wave. When it hits the south node, something leaves us. When planets hit the south, something leaves. Sometimes something comes in, but if it comes in on the south node, you can bet you're going to be learning from it. It's not coming in on the south node just to hang out with you. It's coming in on the south node to take you on a journey of understanding that planet. But when it comes to the north node, it goes, whoa, and it kind of, how like sometimes you feel like the car accelerates, or you're in those spinning things, like the ride, and you're kind of like this. So it's a hit, but it's to karma. It's to the path taken. And interestingly, it goes back to the node is at 13, which is what the Venus-Sun conjunction was last June 1st, 2nd, 3rd, those eclipses, Gemini, writing and reporting, how we communicate things, what we say. Mars in Gemini says, what's the truth? Were you lying? Were you telling the truth? Mercury square the nodes. We're going to reveal the truth, right? And so you're going to hear about people lying to you, or you're going to, if you've been lying, you're going to get caught. Hey, that's what happens. But as Mars hits the node, it's a cross point. It does happen every 2 years. It's not an uncommon cross point, but this is the node hit, and it's stimulating the eclipses from last summer. And at the same time, right as it hits, Sun and Venus meet up and say, new 8-year cycle, ready or not, here we go. So there's like this really turbulent energy as we build up to it all week. The good news is the moon is in Virgo when part one of it starts, when the nodes hit, because Virgo says, you can clean this up, you can fix this, you can clean up your room, in the case of Whoopi, but I'm really disappointed that you lied to me. You know, she tells the story. It was when I was prepping for this week yesterday. So, but now that we're in this, okay, what have I done? What is there about? What's it about? You know, and so this is the choice of moving forward. We have an option because it's Gemini. We always get to choose. But when it hits that node, we get a choice. So it's an interesting, because then we have the conjunction of Sun and Venus, and then we have the full moon. So we're like, whoa, 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 like that kind of energy. Like it's just very turbulent. But it's, you know, it's a transit. It happens. We move to the next phase.
Okay. So with the Cuomo example,
Mm-hmm.
you say that if he had really learned his lesson 19 years ago, so whatever happened, you know, whatever happened with the wife, whatever happened with the politicians, if he had really addressed that then when this time came around, he wouldn't be finding himself in the same mess. I mean, this is how the cycles work, right? It's like, here it is again, like, here it is again. What are you going to do with it? And so he would be in a very different place if had he 19 years ago been like, ooh, maybe I played a role in this thing with my wife, or maybe I, you know, took some responsibility for his contribution to the situation.
Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that's what we can be thinking about as we're wrapping up maybe a storyline, is where can I take responsibility for my role, my contribution, my choices in this situation, so that I can clear things up, move on a new cycle, and not have to deal with this again in 8 years. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably, and if you go, I'm old and I'm not going to live 19 years, don't worry. 2 years from now, Mars is going to hit the North Node again. But so no pass for 19. But yeah, I mean, and that's the whole point. He is Saturn and Sag, Sun, Saturn and Sagittarius, and Sun is approaching Saturn, right? So he's got an applying aspect, tends to be a little more intense. But think of Sagittarius. Sagittarius is on the South Node now, right? So Sagittarius is, I'm going to take you out if you didn't tell the truth. Saturn, we don't fool around with Saturn. We understand he teaches us stuff, but we also look and we go, okay, so what do I believe? And so what I want everybody to do this week, especially if you tune into podcasts, you know, we've also got Pierce Morgan and Meghan Markle and Sharon Osbourne. You know, we got a little thing going on the talk, and, you know, tune into it and kind of sit there and go, okay, so that's this person's version. Okay, that's that person's version, because the world is going to be rife with these examples. You know, we just had the report get declassified about Russia interfering, but that they didn't say anything happened with China. But then we have all these people having said to us, oh, it's China interfering and it's Iran. You know, so it's like very, you know, like where's and the whole thing is there's a grain of truth in there somewhere, but we have to kind of listen to that inner why, you know, back to the Simon Sinek interview, like the TED talk where he goes, listen to the why. What's your emotional reaction to this? And then also, if you're really finding you're really emotionally wrought, then there's something in there you want to go in and kind of clear out. Right? Because that's space. You know, it's like if it's really big emotions, you don't have to do it scary. You just have to kind of wait for the wave to pass and then go, okay, what do I have to, because remember, we got a whole year to get this set up. We don't have to do it like today, but today is when the wave comes in. This week is when the wave comes in and says, this is where we're going. You ready?
Mm.
Right.
Wow. Whew. Okay, breathe, everybody. Breathe.
Everybody breathe.
Yeah.
And remember, you're right where you're supposed to be. Actions have consequences. You are currently at the consequences of your actions. And now we figure out what the next steps are, because Saturn has consequences. He says, you did this, this is the result. And I mean, we get it agriculturally. If we plant tomatoes, we don't get eggplants. But if we plant eggplants, we get eggplant. If we plant zucchinis, we get a lot of zucchinis. I remember when my father had the garden. I mean, it was like we were eating zucchini for months. It felt like, stewed zucchini bread. I mean, it was just like so much zucchini. But what did you plant? Right. It's coming to fruition, right? And because you planted it, now you get to go do other things. Good. Or now you go, I don't really like how that turned out. Well, this is your opportunity for a whole new cycle. Mm-hmm. And that's the beauty of being on planet Earth. We can always change.
Wonderful. All right. So we have a 20-week. I'm going to go through the recap. We have a 20-week or possibly more, you said, depending on your chart.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It may not be you may just see it in the world. It may not be you feeling it, but if you're feeling it.
But it's big. Yeah. Everyone around you is riding some big waves. So this is big. Okay. We have a building energy all week. That is the parts that are building is we're building towards a full moon. We have Venus turning into an evening star. We have Venus combust the sun, which means she's right in the sun, right in the sun's rays. That doesn't mean they're like exactly on top of each other, which is cazimi, right?
No, they're combust coming in, then they're gonna be cazimi, then they're gonna be exact, then they're gonna be cazimi, then they're gonna be combust going out. So what that is planets approach coming in. The degrees vary. Some people say 7, some 17, some people say 10, some people say 8. As it's coming in, because the planet's in the sun, it gets burned up. Cazimi is like when you can stick your finger in the candle and it doesn't burn you. When you stick your candle right in it, it doesn't burn. That's cazimi, very intense. But you don't burn your finger. When you put your finger above the flame, you burn it. So as it's coming in, Venus gets burned up. And then, so she's very passionate. And then she emerges as an evening star. So
are we going to be able to see her at night then?
No, she and the sun are conjunct on the far side. She's on the far side of the sun right now. It's a superior conjunction.
Okay.
We'll be able to see her in 60 days.
60 more days. Okay. All right.
She disappears for 60. So she emerges when it's conjunct the sun on the inferior conjunction between Earth, Venus, and the sun. That's like 8 days. I think she comes back. But when she's on the far side, she has to get around the sun and then come out over on the other side. Which technically turns into an evening star. We don't see her until she gets a little distance from him.
Okay. Got it. All right. So we are
30 coming in, 30 going out. It's that 6. She's been gone for 30 days and she'll emerge in 30. So it's 60 total. So just to clarify.
Got it. All right. So if we're thinking of some analogies, we have the wave analogy, which this is big, intense set of waves that we're going to be riding. We have the sailing analogy. It's like not that gentle, tranquil sail. Like this is being in a sailboat. That's pretty tumultuous. Okay.
Racing a catamaran now. You're on you see those boats where it's like racing. Yeah, racing.
Racing. Okay.
Racing, sailing.
Oh, I was going to ask you about this Mound of Mars on Cuomo's hand. That's fascinating. We got to talk with some more like palmistry at some point.
Okay, so this part of the hand is the plane of Mars. And I encourage you all to buy my palmistry teacher's Ellen Goldberg. She wrote it with Dorian, I think Greenbaum, but anyway, Ellen Goldberg's book on palmistry. Available on the Amazon. So anyway, this whole section of the hand is called the Mound of Mars. This part here, which is above your thumb, because your thumb is your will and your power, it's your power energy. This is the angry Mars, the violent Mars. This is the general plane of Mars. If you have a big mound, you're good. And then over here, this is the strategic Mars, where your strategy happens. And I did a whole presentation on hands and astrology charts because they match. So when you look at someone's hand, you're looking at their astrology chart.
Let's add this to the workshop series.
That one Jamie does not know about. Jamie, add it to the list. Yeah.
Add it. That's amazing. Well,
Yeah.
and someone, I remember I had my first palm reading in New York, and it was amazing. I had sort of written it off as like, oh, that's probably not going to be helpful. But I went to someone who was really respected, and what she said is that our palm is essentially like a printout of our brain. Like it's like a download of the brain, like shown on the palm. And that one hand remains the same and the other hand changes, which is really interesting.
You come in with your natal potential, and then what have you done with it? You know, the recessive hand, what have you done with it is the dominant hand. Yeah. And if you're ambidextrous, both hands change if you're ambidextrous.
Oh,
you can see what you've done, how you've worked with it, and where you're going by looking at the palm. Wow. So it's kind of like the up to the minute update.
That's so fascinating.
My palmistry teacher used to go, and then she'd go, let me see your palm. And she'd like look and check what was going on in your hand, you know, to complement her astrology readings. Yeah. But it's like a whole, it's very good.
It's added to the list for sure.
To the list. Well,
yes. All right. So here we go. We have, this is a week where doing your Saturn is very important. If you haven't already checked out that workshop, it's astrologyhub.com/Saturn. But Anne did teach a workshop on that. So she went through all the signs today briefly, but if you want to go deeper, highly recommend that workshop. Yeah. This is a week where secrets are going to be revealed, potential betrayals, but basically the stories coming out, the truth of the stories coming out. The most intense day that you identified is the 26th.
Thursday, Friday.
Friday. All right. This is a time of accountability to your Saturn, and to the choices. That
everybody's got a Saturn in their chart. What does he ask you to do? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So we have Mercury square the nodes, which could be combative and argumentative. You said, don't fight, don't unless it's something really important to you, but in general, just don't.
Think of it as the universe giving you information. So when you have to pay your taxes for 2020, I'm like, I'm not doodling. I'm like, Anne, are you going to fight with him, or do you want the mortgage?
Mm-hmm.
Pay your taxes. You've got them. You know, it's like you're going to pop it, and then you're going to go, and then you want to kind of settle into it and go, all right. I hear you.
Yeah,
I hear you. I'll be accountable early.
I'll be accountable early.
The IRS says I don't have to be accountable till May, but I'll be accountable now because I want you to give me my mortgage. And you may find yourself having that little attitude, and you and I can talk about it, but hopefully my mortgage lender is not watching the podcast. Right? Because they're going, oh, that girl's got some attitude about paying her taxes. I'm always like, the IRS is my business partner. I get it. I'll just mail them money, whatever they want,
Oh my gosh. All right. This is a time to really look at both sides, to understand that your version of reality may be very different than someone else's version of reality, to really acknowledge that and be open to that possibility of multiple sides. And if it's hard for you, that's always a good opportunity to look and say, well, why is it so hard for me to even consider that there could be another way to see this? Right?
If you find yourself muttering under your breath, or you find somebody giving you the eye, kind of go, all right, maybe I need to check what I'm saying here. Maybe I need to think about it a little more, So yeah.
Right. All right. This is a new year. I mean, an astrological new year. So we just started. This is, again, this initiating energy. We have hard aspects on the moons this week. So that's adding to this intensity. This is a time where you could consider what you were doing 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like a culminating moment of the 4 years.
That 4-year cycle's wrapping, and think about 8 years ago in March, what you started then, because that cycle's done. And then 4 years ago,
you're at the full moon of it.
You're done with that story. Yeah.
Okay.
Go back 8 years, there's an 8-year cycle ending this week.
Got it. All right. And then we're initiating new 8-year cycle. This is also a choice point. And then this is a time for you to look at your harvest and see what you planted. And there could be some as anybody who gardens knows, not every seed you plant works out well. Some work beautifully and some just fail. So it's like, it's a really interesting process. So that's what's happening in our lives as well. So we're planting things, we're trying things. Some are going to work, some are not going to work. That's part of the process, and we learn from it. Right.
Right. No judgment. Just say, yeah, that wasn't so good.
That didn't work out so hot.
I mean, I always find it funny when people first start gardening, because they go, like, I wouldn't survive if I had to eat the food out of my garden. Like, I realize how much I eat versus how much I grew.
Yes.
There's a disparity, and it's kind of like, yeah.
It makes you really appreciate your food on a whole new level. It's like, oh wow, someone put a lot of effort into this salad I'm eating,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Makes you not appreciate zucchini though.
Yes, exactly. So, and it's watery. So this could be emotional. Again, we've been saying that quite a bit, but this is a watery time. It's okay to be crying. It's okay to see that in other people, give them a hug. It's watery. It's emotional.
Mm-hmm.
Good time to work with that kind of energy. Yeah.
Very feeling based. Yeah.
Very feeling based. All right. Anne, thank you so much. I feel very equipped for the week ahead. I hope you all do too. Couple things. I sort of leaked one of the secrets that's coming soon, which is the workshop series.
Workshops.
But there's two, because we have that Mars and Gemini action, right? So there's two.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yes. The other one is going to be announced on April 5th. If you want to make sure that you hear that and that you know what it is, make sure you sign up at astrologyhub.com/podcast. And that will ensure that you get the email that has that announcement in it. The one thing I need to say right now is, if you are international, we love you. This is not discrimination against you, but the technology that we're using, it won't allow us to do anything international yet with the second secret. So this is,
you can do. You're here.
Everybody can do second secret. We're going to put a wait list up. And if you're interested and you're international, we'll make sure that as soon as the technology is there and we can do the thing internationally, we will. So that's more to come. But it's basically a way for you to be working with, traveling with, getting advice from Anne all week long. And very, very easily digestible little snippets. So that's coming. All right, everybody, thank you so much for being here. And thank you, as always. You're just such a joy to spend this time with. And I'm just so honored that we continue to get to share your wisdom with our community. Thank you.
And let us know what makes it more helpful for you. Because when you said, because we did it last week, I did it fast. And you were like, oh, can you do that with Saturn? I'm like, sure. Like that, you guys liked that last week. So you go, more of that, and we can add that in. Because Amanda reads the comments, and then she goes, oh, let's try this. I'm like, okay. Yeah. So feedback's appreciated. So we want to make it useful and helpful to you. And that's our goal. Give you astrological information that allows you to work with the energy, and also to help your friends, because they're going to come and go, is there something going on this week? And you can go, oh yeah.
Yes, I know what's going on.
Spread astrology across the globe,
Exactly. Yeah. That is part of our mission for sure, for anybody that wants it. So if you like this show, also make sure that you subscribe to the channel, that you give us some stars if you like it, that you, again, leave your reviews, your comments, all those things. They're really helpful, and it helps to get the show out to more people. So if, taking that moment to just like give it the stars or give it the thumbs up or subscribe to the channel, it really does help us reach more people, because they have these little algorithm things that make it, if people like it, then they're going to share it with more people. So thank you for being here, for tuning into this episode, for being a part of our community. And as always, for making astrology a part of your life. Have a great week, everybody. Remember to breathe. We'll see you here, same time, same place next Monday. Take care. Bye-bye.